company who offer a very competitive rate of interest. If you fill in the forms now, we can sort it with a phone call. Then, tomorrow, if you bring in a banker's draft for the balance, we'll be able to complete the paperwork and the car will be all yours to drive away. I looked at the form. Not so easy now Darryl had reclaimed it to fill in the remaining blanks. Richmond Credit Finance. Address and phone number in Accrington. It wasn't the first time I'd seen their footprints all over this investigation. I'd meant to check the company out, but I hadn't got round to it yet. I made a mental note to get onto it as soon as I had a spare moment. I tuned back in at the bit where Darryl was asking Richard what he did for a living. This was always the best bit. I'm a freelance rock journalist, Richard told him. Really? Darryl asked. Interesting how his face opened up when he experienced a genuine emotion like excitement. Does that mean you interview all the top names and that? Like Whitney Houston and Beverly Craven? Richard nodded glumly. Sometimes. God, what a great job! Hey, who's the most famous person you've ever interviewed? You ever met Madonna? Richard squirmed. It's the question he hates most. There aren't that many rock stars he has much respect for, either as people or as musicians, and only a handful of them are names that most members of the public would identify as superstars. Depends what you mean by famous. Springsteen, Elton John, Clapton, Tina Turner, and yeah, I did meet Madonna once. Wow! And is she really, as, horny as she comes over? Richard forced a smile. Not in front of the wife, eh? I was touched. He was really trying to make this work. Darryl ran a hand through his neat dark hair and winked. In an adult, it would have been lewd. Gotcha, Richard. Now, your annual income. What would that be? I switched off again. Fiction, even the great stuff, is never as interesting when you're hearing it for the nth time. Darryl didn't hang about explaining little details like annual percentage interest rates to Richard, and within 10 minutes, he was on to the finance company arranging our car loan. Thanks to the wonders of computer technology, credit companies can check out a punter and give the thumbs up or down almost instantaneously. Whatever Richmond Credit Finance pulled up on their computer, it convinced them that Richard was a sound bet for a loan. Of course, when you're relying on computers, it's important to remember that what you get out of them depends entirely on what someone else has put in. 20 minutes later, Richard and I were walking out of the showroom, the proud possessors, on paper at least, of the flashiest set of wheels the Leo Motor Company puts on the road. I do all right, Mrs. Barclay? Richard asked eagerly, as we walked round the corner to where I'd parked the Peugeot 205 Mortensen and Brannigan had been leasing for the 6 months since my last company car had ended up looking like an installation from the Tate Gallery. You wish, I snarled. Don't push your luck, Barclay. Let me tell you, the longer I spend pretending to be your wife, the more I understand why your first marriage didn't go the distance. I climbed in the car and started the engine. Richard stood on the pavement, looking hangdog, his tortoise-shell glasses slipping down his nose. Exasperated, I pushed the button that lowered the passenger window. Oh, for God's sake, get in, I said. You did really well in there. Thank you. He smiled and jumped in. You're right, you know. I usually am, I said, only half teasing, as I eased the car out into the busy stream of traffic on the Bolton to Blackburn road. About what in particular? That being a private eye is 95% boredom coupled with 5% fear. The first time we did that routine, I was really scared. I thought, what if I forget what I'm supposed to say and they suss that we're setting them up? He said earnestly. It wouldn't have been the end of the world, I said absently, keeping an eye on the road signs so I didn't miss the turn-off for Manchester. We're not dealing with the mafia here. They wouldn't have dragged you out kicking and screaming and kneecapped you. No, but you might have, Richard said. He was serious. I laughed. No way. I'd have waited till I got you home. Richard looked worried for a moment. Then he decided I was joking. Anyway, he said, now...